If we're able to have better customer service options, what's going to happen to the Karens? Are we going to eradicate all the Karens from the world
Karens?
from demanding to speak to the manager? Or will they feel more empowered to demand to speak to the manager? What will happen to the Karens?
In theory, because you're able to leverage the tech on both sides, Karen would I would think would be a lot more enlightened, and thus more more professional, let's just say, about her engagement with that age.
So the Karen could get an agent who could Karen for her.
Exactly.
And maybe that would eradicate the Karen-ness inside her.
Exactly.
This video has been brought to you by the PM Insider. Product managers, are you ready to take your skills to the next level with AI? The AI for Product Management course by the PM Insider teaches you how to harness the power of AI, even if you don't write code. Get 15% off when you use the code SWIFT15 at checkout. That's 15% off with the code SWIFT15 at thepminsider.com. Thanks, PM Insider.
Hello and welcome back, everybody, to Swift Start Go, your favorite podcast all about AI. Today, I have a real treat for you. We actually have a guest who you maybe saw before on one of my very first podcast episode from last year, which was only available on YouTube. Guys, it's the one, the only, Michael Arulfo. How are you doing, Michael?
Good, Caroline. Good to be back on your show. Number two.
Number two,
right?
Listen, the last time you came on my show, I got a job. So this is what I'm hoping for. So if anybody out there is hiring, you should hire me because Michael is on my show, and therefore I just get some of your importance off, right? Like I get like your glow just like hits me as well. Is that the case?
It's more like karma. We help each other out. The first time you came through, and I was still ramping up on the AI speaking, and then right after the show, literally like that same week, I got like 5 phone calls to be asked to speak or appear on a expert panel or deliver a keynote or be on another podcast. So,
it's almost like we should just have a podcast like of just the two of us.
Exactly.
Meet up like every week and get everybody to follow us, and then we'll just keep having good karma coming in.
Yeah, and then 1 year you could be the next Joe Rogan, right?
I don't know if I'm the next Joe Rogan, but
or a Caroline version of Joe Rogan, right?
A Caroline version of something like that.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, I have tried to introduce you before, and recently you asked me to write a bio for you, and we've been going back and forth on how on earth do we introduce you. So could you just please introduce yourself to our audience here today, and at least give them a taste of who you, Michael Arulfo, are, and what you're up to these days?
Sure, absolutely, Caroline. It's been a while, so situation has changed, but certainly in a good light. But I'm Michael Arulfo, and I'm the executive chairman of BETA, which that's how I met Caroline the first time. Her first, when she literally flew in for our flying event. Literally, right? Flew in, and so we met there through BETA. So that was way before I got an official role with BETA, just to volunteer at the time. But now I'm in official capacity. I'm also a founding member of the AI Circle.
Really?
Yes, a national group of AI thought leaders from drawing membership from NVIDIA, Meta, Perplexity. So very kind of West Coast focused, but now has presence all over the world. And my day job, I'm a principal enterprise architect at Boston Scientific.
Yeah.
So that's me.
And
I'm also repeat guest on your podcast.
Listen,
so
I know this is the highlight of your year, right?
Absolutely. We have to mention that, because I am on the podcast right now, and that is definitely a highlight. We have a great record. So.
Yeah, we do have a great record. So let's see if we can break some records today. Well, can you tell me a little bit more about AI Circle? Because it sounds super cool, and I would just love to know what it is that you're doing there.
Yeah. So AI Circle. Again, it's a national, actually international, because we have presence in London. It's a think tank. Imagine a bunch of data scientists, engineers, architects like myself, and product people also are involved, that get together and talk about like the latest developments in AI and really, try to learn from each other. It's a community. It's a private community where we get together not only for networking purposes, but also just to really contribute to each other's understanding about AI and sharpen our own thinking around AI as a whole. So, but it's a privilege to be invited because, it's mostly membership-wise on the West Coast and the East Coast. Because that's where, it's centered around like AI innovation. So where are the big AI innovation tech hubs, right? Centered on both coasts, right? So in the Midwest, unfortunately, we don't have that reputation. So I think I'm only one of 3 people in Minnesota.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's you and, can we say who the other people are? Is that?
I didn't ask them for permission. But,
okay.
But there's 2 other people other than myself.
Yeah.
So in Minnesota, because as soon as I got invited, I got membership. I looked at the roster. And I'm like, who's from Minnesota? And I'm like, oh, we're a small. So like 2 other people.
A small but mighty team.
Small but mighty team here in Minnesota. So I'm going to try to change that. But just give you guys a perspective. Mostly West Coast and East Coast, around it. But great people. The main founder, I've gotten close to him. Albert Chun. So he's kind of a well-known figure in AI entrepreneurial circles. So I think he had an executive position with an AI consulting company called Invisible. Yeah. So that's where he got a lot of contacts, but he's well-known in the AI community, and so I've gotten to build a great relationship with Albert, and we're working on some exciting new projects in the enterprise AI front, developing an enterprise AI guide for executives.
Very cool.
So it's very, very cool, and I want to try, to do some tie and bring him here to Minnesota, or bring an event around AI Circle here to Minnesota. So I'm working towards that goal.
Startup Week.
Twin City Startup Week. Yes,
maybe.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or just a standalone event. I think it would be really well received, and there's a lot of also getting the, not just him, but the other members of the AI Circle excited about our thriving startup community here in Minnesota, So that, you and I are both part of. So that's my goal. And if we bring him here, he's, I think that will help, him get an introduction to our startup community, and also help, expand the reputation of the Minnesota startup community, which is one of the best, I feel, in the country. So
awesome. Yeah. And also, you just gave us a hint about Boston Scientific. Can you tell us a little bit about your role at Boston Scientific?
Sure.
And maybe a peek into what kind of projects you're working on?
Yeah, well, I can't get into specifics for obvious reasons, for disclaimer, but I can talk about my role. I'm a principal enterprise architect. So my job is tied to the CIO's organization. And so I'm one of the architects supporting the CIO, which means that I get involved with the enterprise level projects, not just AI. It's there's lots of other technical projects, not just artificial intelligence, though that is a huge part of the portfolio these days, probably about a third. So to be quite honest, I mean, like, you look at the technical infrastructure of any company, AI is a huge portion of it, and so it's an important part of the overall portfolio of the CIO. And so I am one of the representatives on what's called the AI Accelerator. Yeah. And so our Center of Excellence, sometimes it's called an organization. And so, representing the interest of the CIO and the architecture team. So that's involved in lots of different projects, but the accelerator is where a lot of the proposals come through. So yeah.
Very cool.
That's my role there.
Yeah.
Product managers, are you ready to take your skills to the next level with AI? The AI for Product Management course by the PM Insider teaches you how to harness the power of AI even if you don't write code. Imagine being the person in your organization who not only understands AI, but can also drive data-driven product strategies, build AI-integrated roadmaps, and enhance user experiences with predictive analytics. Get 15% off when you use the code SWIFT15 at at checkout. The link is in the description below. That's 15% off with the code SWIFT15 at thepminsider.com. This course is your gateway to becoming a leader in AI-driven product management. Don't miss out.
And all right, let's get into the real questions here. All right,
Sure.
What are you most excited about when it comes to AI these days? It's been, I think, 8 months since you last came on the show.
Sure.
What are you thinking about today?
Well, there's been so many cool breakthroughs since since I was last on shows. Like, it's almost mind-boggling, but very, very exciting stuff, right? This year, the two big things obviously is the advances in the LLM tech, specifically the way the large language models are being developed, or just model development as a whole. And with the news around DeepSeek, right?
Yep.
Right, that's huge. And then also, I think of equal importance and significance is the popularity of agents.
Yeah.
And deploying them not just for individual tool sets, but also across the enterprise, which is given my position and working with the and research with the AI Circle, as well as my role within Boston Scientific, obviously in enterprise tech there in the enterprise office. There's those types of developments are of particular interest to me.
Yeah.
From both fronts. And I've been doing a lot of work with AI Circle on researching both topics. And obviously that's a big topic with the Circle. Everybody's thinking about it. It's impacting lots of things. And that's really, for this year, 2025, really driving a lot of the trends around AI.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm going to build a bridge here to healthcare, since that is primarily the space that you work in with when it comes to AI. What are you most excited about when it comes to AI in healthcare?
Sure. I like to answer that question in talk about three different areas in healthcare, and it's particularly around AI, right? So there's three areas that excite me. Diagnostics, patient experience, and then also what I also call like care delivery, right? These are there's other areas certainly in healthcare and other industries, but those are the three areas that I like, that excite me the most when it comes to AI development, because I feel like anywhere you can impact the delivery of care and enhance the patient experience, and also make medicine more effective through the use of AI and its ability to process data very, very quickly and make connections very, very quickly, which is very, very good at, whether you're talking about traditional AI models or you're talking about large language models. The ability for AI to process large amounts of data quickly and make some serious connections, or whether that's producing insights or connecting different kinds of complex data, that is very exciting. And when you take that ability and you train it on healthcare specific data, great things are possible just with that. And then the other areas really, is leveraging AI to improve that experience that you and I have when we meet with our doctor or go see a nurse. I think that's great. We all want a great experience, right? And then the third part is using AI to actually enhance the delivery of care, which that is very, very exciting to me, because I come from a healthcare family, lots of doctors, lots of nurses. So anytime, at the dinner table, when, I remember growing up, we'd have conversations about, healthcare, right? And so it's exciting to me that, we have this great technology that enhances that ability to deliver care to an individual. And that's just super exciting to me.
Yeah.
Coming from a medical family and working in healthcare 20 plus years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, I have so many in-laws who are all in the healthcare space.
Oh,
and so,
okay.
Yeah, well,
I thought you came from
Dave.
a real estate family.
Well, no, my family's a real estate family.
Okay.
But Dave's family, my husband's family, is all in medical. So
I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Dave's dad is an orthopedic surgeon. His mom's an anesthesiologist.
Well, hey.
I know.
I did not know that Dave and I had that in common. So now we have yet another thing. Other than admiring your terrific sense of humor and just you as a whole, we have another direct connection.
Well, that sounds like excellent segue because you told me before this podcast episode today that you maybe built an AI agent that can tell a joke or two. Is that right?
Yes, I did.
What trouble have you gotten into?
So,
and why are you dragging me into this, Michael?
So, as an experiment, since I am researching agents for AI Circle, and also it's one of the things I'm going to be presenting about this year in different talks literally all across different conferences. And I'm going to be talking about in London. So it's kind of exciting. So I thought, well, hey, I'm going to make this fun. Like if I'm going to be doing this like hardcore tech stuff on the side kind of thing, then I'm going to make it fun. So I had an epiphany. I'm like, what, if I'm going to be talking and working with an agent, I'm going to give it a sense of humor and give it a personality that's going to be pleasant because I'm going to be, hammering out these, different test cases.
Oh boy,
and
I think I know where this is going.
I don't want it to be dry, so I'm like, who's the funniest person that I know that I love spending time with? Caroline. So like, I do podcasts with her, so I'm like, I'm gonna make this like I'm talking to Caroline. And so I'm like, I'm gonna create an agent with Caroline's personality, specifically her sense of humor. And thus was born the idea of creating Caroline the Agent. So
I did know a little bit about this. He asked me to send a few documents, but
yes.
Okay.
So I developed and trained my own version of Caroline as an agent, and the idea is as I'm doing this research for the circle and the research for the presentations, it's going to have a Caroline kind of sense of personality, and the sassiness, the wit. The puns, the jokes, the whole thing. And I'm going to equip it as such. So I powered it accordingly. So
can you describe how you've built this, what platform it was on? I know I sent over some of my old feature film scripts, my TV pilots, a few stand-up sets that I've done over the years, and then some of my more recent written work on AI, and also the script for a wedding that I'm officiating in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely, yeah.
So can you tell me how did you build this? What went into this?
Sure. It's no secret. Like when you work with AI, it's heavily dependent upon data, right? So that's why I asked you, like, especially the type of agent I wanted to create, right? I really wanted to capture your spirit, your personality as much as possible in the humor, right?
Yeah.
And so the best way to do that is literally like let's train it on the way you like to tell jokes, on your particular comedic content. Certainly you can't capture everything, but I feel like the better I can capture that essence, the better I'm able to operate the agent in that manner. So having your, all the documents that you mentioned, I took in all those files, created a library called Caroline's Jokes. So uploaded it to the AI agent platform that I'm using, which is a private platform. It's a platform designed to create agents and to orchestrate them.
Got it. Okay.
So, because that's what I need, because I'm trying to create an orchestration agent. So, but I needed the data. So I created a library called Caroline's Jokes. Yeah. Uploaded all the files that you gave me. Took that, attached that library to the agent. Yeah. Right. And vectorized that data. So now the agent can access it. Yeah. In the platform. So on the back end, what I'm using is GPT-4o Mini. Yeah. Because I didn't want to push my luck and overload it with a higher powered language model, because I wanted to, because I didn't know how successful this whole experiment would be. Yeah. But I figure, okay, I don't need the power of a full-blown reasoning model, so I don't need to bring in a model like DeepSeek. Yeah. Or the higher powered GPT models. But I wanted more speed, performance, the ability to leverage like internet search, videos, because you've got a podcast, you've got content, so I want to be able to access that. So I gave it the ability to literally go out and get it. And then also whatever else we can cull from the web.
Oh, web so search, it searched me on the web?
Can search you on the web.
All right.
Is Is it completed the search? Probably not, because I literally created you like, the agent's only 3 hours old now. So it's not. I haven't put it through all the paces yet.
Yeah.
But I do know it is literally every time I'm testing this, it's getting better. So more. I can tell it's harvesting more and more data. More and more conversations, and that's just the way AI works. The more you experience it has, right? The more data, and just the more times you use it, and the way this is an agent. So the more data, it can harvest from the internet, from videos. It can also. I also gave it the tooling for image processing. Yeah. I think the only thing I didn't give it tooling for was there's one thing I didn't enable, but it's got all those tools.
How thorough was it at searching the internet for me? Because normally when I tell people to Google me, I tell them to Google Carolyn Swift Holden, because there was a character on Baywatch named Carolyn Holden.
Well, do you want to do
by Yasmin Bleeth. So am I going to be running in slow motion? Like how?
Well, do you want to test it?
Can we test it?
We can test it.
Okay.
So,
here.
all right, Caroline.
That's me.
Caroline, I'm going to introduce you to Caroline Agent. So I told Caroline that we are on a live podcast. We're doing a live podcast on AI, and this is what Caroline told me. So very excitable. That sounds like a blast, right?
All right, do you want me to read this out loud?
Yeah, read it, Caroline.
All right, this looks like an intro for the podcast. So,
sure.
Wow, a live podcast on AI? That sounds like a blast. I can already picture it. You, a microphone, and a sea of curious listeners ready to dive into the world of artificial intelligence. Just remember, if things get awkward, you can always throw in a joke about how AI is great at making decisions, unless you ask it to pick a restaurant. That's not very good. But that said, I am a retired comedian, not a current professional one.
Right.
Okay. So what topics are you planning to cover? Are you diving into the future of work, the role of creatives in tech, or maybe how to teach kids to thrive in an AI-driven world? I have written about how to help kids thrive in an AI-driven world.
It knows that. Yep.
It knows. Because I've got plenty of insights and witty one-liners ready to go. For instance, did you know that the best way to prepare for an AI world is not just coding, but also studying the humanities? I literally wrote that's one of the files I put in there. That's funny. I did not. If it sounds like I'm rehearsed, I am not. I'm reading this for the very first time. I'm just good at reading off a script.
The last part's for the best.
Okay. Who knew that reading Shakespeare can make you a better collaborator with AI? It's like the Bard said, to code or not the code? That's the question. Okay, maybe he didn't say that, but you get my drift.
Look at. Now, I have to ask. Did you actually write that, or did you just?
I did not write that. No, none of that.
Very cool.
Yeah. The only thing let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anything that it took from. It really didn't take anything specific. It specifically cited topics. From files that we uploaded. Yeah. But it didn't. Well,
like I said, it's an agent. So it's gonna make its own connections.
But the Shakespeare bit was cute.
That is very cute.
It is cute.
Okay, so let's do the test that you wanted, like the Baywatch thing.
The Baywatch thing. Maybe we write.
What do you want? What do you want to know? Like, if do a search, like what it find on you on the internet.
Or like. I mean, we gave it a lot of script. Should we try giving
a lot of data. And
I
also asked it to go out.
I'm sitting here for longer. I'm gonna bring my chair over here.
Let me try to get an answer for your first question while you're here, because I think that I'm very curious.
Yeah, something about Yasmin Bleeth. I think.
So more generic, because I don't want to trip it. I want to say like.
Let's ask it what it knows about Carolyn Holden, and don't mention the Swift. Yeah. And see if it gets into Baywatch at all, because that is an issue on Google.
Oh, this is gonna be hilarious.
Literally, I was on an interview with one of my last bosses, and it was on Zoom, and they said, "Is it normal for photos of Yasmin Bleeth to come up on Google?" And I Googled you. I said, "Yes, it's very normal." Okay.
I'm gonna actually make it personal, because I did literally train it out on you.
Yeah.
So it should be, but we'll find out. Okay. So the way I'm gonna set it up is a two-way search. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna ask it what it knows, because it does know a lot about you. Yeah. What it knows, and then I'm gonna ask it to go out on the internet and find its own, because I cooked it that way, right? Yeah. So, Caroline.
Yeah, because I've done this a few times on ChatGPT and stuff, where I ask it what it knows.
Right.
So, but what does this thing know? It probably knows more because it went through different stand-up sets of mine where I like talk about my life. So.
All right, so I'm now going to also tell it to go on the internet too, because it has that ability.
Okay, so right here it says, what do you know about Carolyn Holden? Tell me what you know about Carolyn Holden. Also, find some information on the internet about Carolyn. We'll find out.
All right.
Okay.
Now you see it's using the tool.
It's
So
thinking.
features.
Oh, it's a character. Here, scroll up. This is funny. Carolyn Holden is a character from the popular TV show Baywatch. Portrayed by Yasmin Bleeth. She's the younger sister of Stephanie Holden, another character on the show. Carolyn is known for having a different personality compared to her sister. Of course she would. And her character adds a unique dynamic to the lifeguard team.
That's hilarious.
Here are some fun facts about Carolyn Holden. Portrayed by Yasmin Bleeth. Show Baywatch, which aired from 1989 to 2001. Character traits. Carolyn is depicted as more carefree and adventurous spirit compared to her sister, Stephanie. Storylines. Carolyn has had various story arcs throughout the series, including dealing with personal challenges and relationships. If you want to learn more about the character or the actress. Now, if you're looking for information about Carolyn Holden as a person, not the character, I couldn't find any details. You were trained on me. If you have a particular Carolyn Holden in mind, let me know. I can help you dig deep.
So this highlights a specific weakness in AI tech as well. Even though I literally trained it on your data that you gave me, it is not self-aware. So, because even though I literally trained it on your data files.
Okay.
However, that's the reality of it. So because it's not self-aware, but yet it's giving these very Carolyn Holden responses as I instructed it to in the prompt.
It like kind of sounds like me.
Yeah, it does.
But
it has
but without the awareness
it doesn't know that
it doesn't know that
it thinks it behaves like you, because I literally trained it and instructed it to behave like you. Well, your sense of humor, your responses. Yeah. However, it doesn't make a distinction between itself and you.
Which is fine, because Google doesn't either.
Yeah.
So let's do this. Can we ask the same question, but with Carolyn Swift Holden, and see what it does there?
Okay. That is funny, by the way.
I know. We should have it write a script of me running slow motion on the beach.
Well, see, the thing is, like, whenever okay, we'll finish this and I'll tell you. Hold that thought. That's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
So, okay,
Tell me what you know about Carolyn Swift Holden. We want to give it to the exact, and then also what you can find on the internet about Carolyn Swift Holden. Yeah?
Yes, yep. Though I think because I already gave it this ability, it probably will by default, but I just want to make sure it does it.
So this is what it says. Tell me what you know about Carolyn Swift Holden personally, and what you can find on the internet. Let's find out. Okay. Colorful personality.
All right.
Identity crisis. This is going to get me a job, isn't it?
Yes.
All right.
You can edit it later. As you see fit. Okay. You want to read it?
I'll read it. Carolyn Swift Holden is a creative individual with a colorful personality and a knack for storytelling. Here's what I know about her personally, based off of the sources provided. Background.
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay.
Carolyn has a rich and humorous narrative about her life. Humorous. I'm always funny, apparently, including her experiences growing up in various places, such as Chicago and Minnesota. She has a unique perspective on identity, often reflecting where she's from and how her name is pronounced.
College experience.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
College experience, she attended St. Olaf College, where she was involved in various activities, including being a candle bearer at Christmas Fest, a significant event at the school.
So how is this picking? Did you literally give me your background in one
So
of the
what I
files,
gave, one of the
or
things
it
that
could
I
draw from the
did
internet?
was that's probably not on the internet. So
so it did come from
I think that came from the
data.
training data. Yeah.
Oh,
So
excellent.
well, I gave
That's why it would have known that in the training
one of
data.
the files I gave you was basically I think it was like a 30-page document of like every stand-up set I ever wrote in one doc.
But labeled with Swift. Or
Yeah,
Caroline?
probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, okay.
So,
that's how I was able to pick it up.
and-
so this is information that's
Yeah.
not available on the internet. Is actually available. The only way we can know is in the data.
Yeah,
sharing files.
probably.
Okay,
I
alright.
don't think. I mean, there was a point where if you wanted to buy
'Cause I know
Christmas
the
Fest
same.
tickets at St. Olaf, you did have to click on my face.
Okay.
There was
okay,
a-
so it could have been there. All right.
So it
all
could
right,
have been
all
there,
right. Could have been there.
but it's not something that's like written about. So I doubt
Okay.
that, and it's not. You can't currently
Public, yeah.
buy Christmas Fest tickets by clicking on my face.
Okay,
So
okay.
I think that's.
What about your
in
acting
there.
career? 'Cause
So
your acting. Like, how did they get that? I'm just curious.
Look at this. Carolyn has a knack for storytelling as evidenced by her humorous recounting of a time she overslept and had to rush to an important event.
Yeah. No,
Listen,
that's
this
not-
is no longer going to get me a job. This is this is going to make me unemployable, Michael. How could you do this to me?
I don't know. It highlights some important aspects of your
Oh
personality.
my gosh, look at this. Oh, that's cute. Wait. This is funny. Acting career. Carolyn humorously claims to have had a phenomenal acting career, joking about her role as an extra fetus in Home Alone.
That's from one of your jokes.
It is.
Okay. Very good.
It's a true story. But
So is that anywhere?
no, that's not on the internet.
All right, good. Okay, good. So it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
She also mentions being involved in school plays, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? I think it's funny it says phenomenal acting career. Like, I had a
Again.
really embarrassingly bad acting career.
But remember how I trained her personality.
Yeah.
To be, it's like
To
you
be, it's telling,
talking about
I'm telling
you.
a joke. Yeah, I'm
Right.
joking. So that's funny.
I do get it. It does come through in the response.
It does. And it's mentions Harry Potter, which I don't really talk about Harry Potter as much, but a lot of the comedy stuff is older. So
I love the next part. That is very Caroline.
which one? The creative part or the identity crisis?
Comedic. Caroline aspires to be a successful writer and seems to have a comedic flair, often referencing a desire to develop creative projects. Similar to those of idols Amy Poehler and Tina Fey, which
mentioned. Yeah.
that is definitely from my prompts.
Yeah, Michael.
So.
Michael specifically asked me what comedic influences that I had, so that he could have the internet search that and like incorporate that into like kind of the comedic tone and language.
Yep, I
of
even
things.
mentioned the specific character.
But I think I
So
did have
Leslie
Nope in
I said-
particular is a favorite.
I specifically referenced Leslie.
It gotta
so-
sound like Leslie.
I said in your responses you have to have the style, like comedic style similar to Parks and Rec, and I said specifically Leslie's style.
Yeah,
So,
I
yeah.
did have a coworker once who said, "Carolyn, are you the Leslie Knope of Loeb NYC, like the venture capital firm I worked at?" And I said, "Why, yes, I am. Thank you for noticing."
That's funny as hell.
You noticed.
Oh, that's funny.
That's such a Leslie response.
It
Okay.
picked it up. Yes.
Okay. And then
Identity
crisis. She humorously discusses her struggle with identity, including the confusion surrounding her name and her experiences growing up in different places. This adds a relatable layer to her personality and storytelling.
Oh, I gotta ask how it came up with that, because that even surprises me.
No,
How?
So because of the stand-up sets, yeah. So I haven't read all of them in a while. I kind of just sent the files over without really thinking about it.
So this is cool.
Anyways,
okay.
So I've had a few sets that have talked about like I moved a lot, and so I don't always feel like I'm from one place or another. Like
Sure.
I don't feel like I'm a Minnesotan. I don't feel like I'm a New Yorker. I don't feel like I'm from Connecticut.
A little bit of a nomad.
I'm just kind of like an alien,
Yeah.
basically. And then, but also there's everyone's always asking me, "Are you Carolyn or Caroline?" And I gave up years ago, and I don't pay attention, and I honestly don't even notice anymore. And so
Okay.
I have a lot of jokks about that. So there's definitely some
so
of that.
definitely
in
picked
there.
it up.
So,
All
but I think it's funny that it's like confusion around my identity.
That's very specific.
That's like a
Confusion
very-
surrounding her name
That's
and her
a
experiences.
specific. I wonder if that's a word choice that I used that I just forgot about. Okay, number 7 says social commentary. So Carolyn also touches on broader themes such as the impact of social media and the importance of communication in the modern world, indicating a thoughtful approach to her creative endeavors. That's nice. That's employable. Look, I'm employable. I don't have any.
Well, the
identity
last
crisis
part's really
whatsoever.
cool.
What's the last part? Okay.
Read the last sentence.
Oh, look at this. If you're looking for more specific information about her or want me to find something on the internet, just let me know. Otherwise, it seems like Carolyn Swift Holden is a vibrant and engaging person with a lot to share.
Hallelujah.
Wow.
So even, what'd be cool is
What?
if we asked, like, if Carolyn would be a good fit for, XYZ like job or role.
Let's do it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Now I did not train it on job hunting and matching.
Yes,
to be
that's true.
clear. So, but it would be.
But I've written a lot on ChatGPT about job hunting, so it might already know.
So it would be interesting to see, literally ask it, treat it like, since it knows so much about you and it can do it has the ability to search the internet and process all kinds of data that's available on the internet.
Let's ask it for 5 job recommendations.
For Carolyn Swift Holden?
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Let's do
like
that.
it. That's,
all right.
You read my mind.
We're nailing this.
Okay, yes, okay.
This is not where I thought today's podcast was going. He only informed me that this was happening an hour or 2 before we started setting up the set.
And I didn't know if the agent would work. So I honestly did not know. I'm just going to, it's an idea, but,
Listen, this is what we do on the show. It's a good time. It's a good time.
Yeah, this is an experiment all its own, and I'm liking the results. So,
okay.
So, how about this? Here, this would be a recommend 5 jobs that...
Maybe career options rather than jobs.
Jobs? You mean more broad? Okay.
Yeah, a little bit more broad, because if it's jobs, it might just be content. Whereas career option, it might show a bit more.
Sure. That'll be broader.
How much it would pick up on venture or product or things like that.
5. Do you want 5 or maybe smaller?
Let's do 5. Yeah.
For career?
Yeah.
That's gonna be big. It's gonna be a lot.
Well, we'll find out.
Okay. 5 career
options.
Because now it knows all this information because it had it on you.
Yeah.
And then some, right?
Yeah.
Because I have been prompting this this morning to train it.
Yeah.
So
let's find out.
Okay.
Okay. Recommend 5 good career options for Carolyn Swift Holden. Let's see what it does.
Since it knows so much about you now, literally, and it doesn't even know half the information.
I wonder if it's going to say comedy.
We'll see.
We'll find out. Oh, yeah, it's very content oriented. Oh, it got startup founder.
Okay,
interesting.
Should we go through it?
Yeah, let's go through it.
All right.
Based on Carolyn Swift Holden background, personality, and skills, here are 5 great career options that would suit her well. Creative writer or screenwriter.
Gee, I wonder
if I've done that before.
Yep.
Given her, for anyone who doesn't know, I was a comedian in New York for a few years before pivoting over to tech, venture capital, and startups. So
I love how it justifies itself. It's actually pretty good.
So given her comedic flair and love for storytelling, Carolyn could thrive as a creative writer, crafting engaging scripts for TV shows, movies, or even web series. That's the most realistic out of all of those.
Didn't you give me one?
I have so many web series.
Didn't you give me some scripts from your web series?
I gave you a feature film script and 2 TV pilots.
Yeah,
I didn't do my web series.
Okay.
But I gave it the formal things.
Well, I gave.
With her experience in acting and performance, she could bring a unique perspective to any script she writes. Thank you. All right.
That's number 1.
Number 1.
A hit. Good.
Yeah,
pretty
except
good.
I'm retired.
I'm retired. But it was right. It was right.
Yeah.
Number 2.
Okay, number 2. Content creator or influencer.
We were just talking about this.
Which is kind of basically what I'm doing right now. So, Carolyn's ability to engage with various topics and her passion for the internet, I love how it's the internet specifically, make her a perfect candidate for a content creator. She could utilize platforms like YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram to share her insights, humor, and creativity, potentially building a brand around her personality.
Wow.
Look at that. Okay.
It's like a mirror for itself because I literally trained it on Carolyn's personality and asked in many ways in the prompt engineering and the data.
Yeah.
And it's just ironic.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then number 3.
Wow.
Again, I'm retired, folks. Stop telling me to be a comedian.
What does it say?
It says number 3, comedy writer or stand-up comedian. My God. All right. With her comedic background and experience in performance, pursuing a career as a comedy writer or stand-up comedian could be a fulfilling path. She could create sketches or routines that resonate with audiences, drawing from her life experiences and observations.
Another, I think, hit it perfect, right?
I want to make money, people.
Okay.
Come
Speaking
on.
of money, look at number 4.
Okay, we got
and number 5.
we got better options here. So, marketing or advertising professional. Carolyn's experience in advertising and her creative mindset could lead her to a successful career in marketing. She could work on campaigns that require innovative thinking and a deep understanding of storytelling to connect with audiences effectively.
That's money.
That is money, and
that's
I
good.
did just
Yeah.
sell a company.
You did, yes.
As the head of marketing.
Absolutely. And can we mention the specifics of that, like data?
No, I can't. Well, I can say it's Data Volo,
you
and
can
they
say
sold a
Data Volo,
Snowflake.
right? Yeah.
I just can't say the number.
Which is ironically, I remember us talking specifically about Snowflake and Data Volo.
Yeah.
In our in the podcast.
Yep.
That we're in,
And
right?
on the day that we recorded that podcast, you before we recorded, you were like, oh yeah, AWS, Databricks, blah, 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 and Snowflake. And I was like, I've heard of all these companies except for Snowflake. Could you tell me more? And that's how I first learned about Snowflake.
Yep.
And then little did we
exactly
know, like 4 or 5 months later, sold a company to Snowflake. So that was really funny.
That's hilarious. And it's on tape.
It's on, well, that part, I don't know if it was on tape, but we did talk about Snowflake in that episode we did.
Because I remember the line.
But not that moment of me being like, what's that?
No, but I mentioned, because you asked me that question, and I remember that response.
Yeah.
Because I said it doesn't, I said it would make sense for a company, a data company like Data Volo to merge with Snowflake. So I remember that.
I wasn't, well, maybe
in
the secret episode that was never
released.
uploaded.
Yes.
That one.
But I remember that one.
Yeah.
So okay, back.
Okay.
Number 5.
Number
Here we
5.
go.
Oh my
Here we
God.
go.
Look,
Here we
another
go.
thing I've done.
Yeah.
Entrepreneur or startup founder. With her interest in technology and her creative background, starting her own business or joining a startup could be a great fit. Carolyn could leverage her skills to create a product or service that reflects her passions, whether it's in the tech industry, entertainment, or another area that she's passionate about. These career options align with Carolyn's strengths and interests, allowing her to utilize her creativity, communication skills, and unique perspective on life. Wait, where to go? Plus, they all come with the potential for fun and adventure, just like Carolyn
Oh
herself.
my God.
Aww.
It totally loves you. I wonder why.
It's so funny because when I ask ChatGPT for job options, it actually gives me more business-related ones.
I think
it's
doesn't
because
know
it looks
you.
at my...
It doesn't know you like this.
No.
Like this
I mean,
agent.
it talks about venture capital.
It does? Okay.
It talks about and product. And so the fact that those aren't on there is a bit interesting.
No.
But it doesn't normally bring up comedy. So,
or the writer, does it?
it says that I should be an influencer.
Oh, it
says
does.
I should be an AI thought leader.
Oh, it does. So it does pick that.
Yeah, but it doesn't do the
screenwriting
screenwriting and comedy stuff. So that's regular ChatGPT doesn't talk about that.
Does it mention marketing? I'm just curious.
It does, yeah. It mentions marketing, product, sales.
What about
thought leadership, entrepreneur,
It does? Okay.
venture capital. But that's because those are all my recent jobs, and it has my resume. So this one doesn't have my resume.
Okay.
So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there other things you want to demo? We could do this all day. I'm sure.
I think let's do this.
Sure.
Can you ask the bot to write a script about a comedic script about Carolyn Swift Holden and Carolyn Holden from Baywatch meeting up on a beach?
The Swift, two Carolines.
So have me and the other Carolyn Holden.
Right.
Let's do that.
Because we are on
Do you want me to type this really quick?
No, I'll type it, but
Okay.
I'm going to make it short.
Write a comedy sketch about Carolyn Swift Holden and Carolyn Holden from Baywatch meeting up on a beach. The script should be no longer than 2 pages.
All right, this should be funny.
Okay.
This should be funny.
Beach pumping.
Let's crank it in that quick. That's why I picked this language model, 4.0 mini.
Oh, it's doing multiple scenes.
For speed.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we go to the top? I'll take it all the way.
Okay, let's
to
see
the
what it does.
Oh,
Too high.
here it is.
Here we go. Title.
Love
Beach
it.
bumpin'. Setting. A sunny beach in California with waves crashing and beachgoers enjoying the sun. Carolyn Swift Holden is lounging on a towel, typing on her laptop while sipping a coconut drink. Carolyn Holden from Baywatch is jogging along the beach, looking fabulous in her lifeguard attire.
There's your
But it doesn't say anything about slow motion. Okay,
no, it doesn't.
Scene 1. Carolyn Holden is focused on her laptop. Carolyn Holden talking to herself. All right, let's see if I can get this sketch about a time-traveling lizard to go viral. It's all about the angles and maybe a little drama.
That's
so weird.
Swift, okay, and then...
Okay,
and now here
suddenly she looks up and sees Carolyn Holden jogging by. Carolyn Swift Holden calling out, "Hey, is that Carolyn Holden from Baywatch?" Carolyn Holden stops, turns around. "Yes, it is, and you must be the other Carolyn?"
It's hilarious.
Me, the one and only, but I'm still trying to figure out why I'm the other Carolyn. I mean, I was here first. Well, I've been saving lives on the beach for years. You have to admit, that gives me a little edge.
No,
They both sit on the beach towel. They call it scene 2.
Scene 2.
That's not a scene. They didn't need to do that. They just needed to, whatever.
Okay.
This is poorly edited.
Well.
Carolyn Swift Holden. So, what's it like being a lifeguard? Carolyn Holden. Oh, you know, just saving lives, looking fabulous, and occasionally rescuing people from bad decisions. Like wearing flip-flops with socks?
Exactly.
And let me tell you, it's a full-time job. They both laugh. Wow, they think they're so funny.
They're hilarious.
Okay.
Scene 3.
Carolyn Swift Holden pulls out her laptop. Speaking of bad decisions, I'm working on this sketch about a time-traveling lizard. Carolyn Holden, a time-traveling lizard? Yep, it's a metaphor for how we all feel lost in time. Like, one minute you're in high school, and the next you're debating whether to buy organic or not.
Oh, Carolyn Holden, that's deep. I just try to figure out if the sunscreen is SPF 30 or 50. Whoa.
This is so bad.
This is bad.
This is so
but
bad.
yet it's very funny.
It's funny because I didn't write it.
Yeah.
A beach ball rolls over to them. Carolyn Swift Holden picks up the beach ball. Hey, let's settle this once and for all. Who's the better Carolyn?
Okay.
Do you want to just read Carolyn Holden?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll be Carolyn Holden.
Okay.
Oh, it's definitely me. I mean, I'm the one who gets to run in slow motion.
Yes, we mentioned slow motion.
There we go.
True, but I can make people laugh with all my sketches.
Scene 5.
They start tossing the beach ball back and forth.
This is so bad, but it is just hilarious.
Oh, we need a third person. Beachgoer 1. Lifeguard, help! My friend is drowning!
Carolyn Holden. Duty calls. You totally do this.
Don't forget to save time. Don't forget to save him in slow motion.
Oh no. We love
After the
slow
rescue,
motion.
Carolyn Holden returns looking triumphant. I love how there's no. They
Saved
didn't show the action at all.
No. It's just so I saved him and look good doing it.
You've got my vote. No, what? I would never vote for that. It says you've got my vote for Matt Carolyn.
Thank you, Carolyn. And you've got my vote for funniest.
And they
High five. There we go. Just like you're reading a real script. All right. End scene.
They both sit back down and enjoying the sun. So how about we collaborate? A sketch about a lifeguard and a time-traveling lizard?
Only if I get to save the day in slow motion.
Deal. They both laugh,
sipping
sipping their drinks in the sunset.
That's hilarious.
That's so bad.
So ironically, it's even funnier when it's like an agent trained in on Carolyn. So essentially, a Carolyn agent creating a script about two different Carolyns, right? That it knows it's aware of.
Well, and it also knows that I would rightly so make fun of the other Carolyn Holden for doing everything in slow motion. But what it didn't do, which I'm mad about, is it didn't write any action scene about Carolyn Holden going and doing the rescue, because that would have been so good. And then there could have been something funny about me, the actual Carolyn Swift Holden, filming with my phone and being I'm gonna get the right angles. So there's so much opportunity there that it missed out on. But it was focused on the dialogue, and I get that. But it didn't play enough.
All the pieces. But so here's an example, because where it's only going to be as good as any AI, not just the agent, but in particular this one, because it's trained so specifically on your personality and your style, right? If you want it to come up with a more precise response, like in this case, producing a script, then tell it to in the beginning.
And it was also limited by the fact that it only had 2 pages. So we do have to give that.
Right. We gave it a precise limitation on the pages, which it's
and
pretty
a lot
good.
of sketches tend to be like 3 to 5 pages. So
it was so shortened it.
And you were like, "Oh, let's do 500 words or characters," and I was like, "No, it's
too much." So typical script is 3 or okay. So we kind of gave it a constraint that's pretty big. Okay.
So that did, and I think that affected like the stage directions and whatever.
But pretty good, huh?
Pretty good. Thank you so much for showing me this, and I can't believe this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. So.
But I did not know it would turn out so well. Even the fact that it can run on this and it made those connections, that's like really cool. That's really cool.
I'm very happy about the slow motion bit. Yeah, that was
got the slow motion.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna go back to my seat.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you, Michael.
That was an experience.
That was
with Caroline, 2 Carolines literally side by side.
Like coming to a head.
And the agent, and having that banter is pretty awesome.
I wonder if we can take that script and maybe I will do this after. Take that script and try to make like a comic or something.
You totally do it.
That would be cute.
Hilarious. Very cute and hilarious.
Like a cartoon.
Hilarious.
Of me and Yasmin Bleeth.
You and Yasmin Bleeth. Like as we're talking about that script, that would be awesome.
That would be really funny.
That would be awesome.
Could we get the AI to do it?
Probably.
Maybe we should do that in this talk that you're doing.
Yeah. Well, we got time to prepare for that.
We got time.
We got time for that.
But now that we've explored some of the more fun use cases of AI and like the different types of things that generative AI can do, which involves me and Carolyn Holden, aka Yasmin Bleeth from Baywatch, like having a showdown on the beach.
Right. While she's moving in slow motion.
Slow motion.
The slow-mo.
Of course.
Looking fabulous.
Looking fabulous. I'm curious if there. I want to pivot a little bit.
Sure.
And I just want to ask, there's a lot of concerns about AI in a wide variety of areas. And I'm curious, what are the things that you're worried about when it comes to AI? And this can be tech specific, or it could be, people in tech, right?
Sure.
What are you concerned about these days?
Number one, the cost that's associated with deploying the infrastructure that's required to scale up AI.
Yeah.
It's huge. I mean, both cost like actual money, right? Capital, right? Which, now with big programs like Stargate, right? Helping offset, that's a big development recent, right? That's going to help develop the infrastructure in the US. And Europe also recently announced another big initiative to build infrastructure supporting scalable AI.
Yeah, was that 200 billion?
200 billion, yep.
Yeah.
What, and ours is what?
500.
500, right? So,
I got the numbers memorized.
Yeah, you got it. I wonder if you have your own AI podcast. Yeah. So you're talking like, combined just with those 2 big programs, 700 billion, right? I mean, plus. And then so that's going to help literally create the infrastructure required to scale up the AI across the world, right? At least Europe and US in this case, right? But so even if you solve the financial challenges, there is the impact on the environment, right? The amount of energy it's going to cost us to cool like these GPUs, right? So required the compute power, right? That's required to scale up AI at that level. There's gonna be a cost to the environment, right?
Yeah.
And that's often not being discussed, though. Well,
now, certain circles it is.
Circles,
so like artists talk about the climate effects all the time.
Yeah.
And that's one of their, I know several people who refuse to use any AI tool.
Really?
Because they're concerned about climate.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So it is a big issue. And there isn't a clear solve right now for it. But I am optimistic, and I believe that with the developments in things like quantum, that will come up with some technical advances to reduce the cost on the environment to scale up AI.
I didn't know quantum would reduce the cost, but that
In
makes a
theory-
lot of sense.
in
Could you
theory.
explain, for anybody who's just not familiar with quantum computing, just a little bit about what it is, just the basics, and also why you think that would have a positive effect on how much compute is needed for AI, stuff.
Sure. Yeah, and and I'll talk about briefly. And I'm not a quantum expert, so I have a lot of friends that I present with, like Matthew Versace. He's very much an expert, and other architects that are specialists in quantum computing, right? Yeah. But I've talked to them about it, and since I do a lot of my work in the AI realm, what I've learned is and this is I'm being very optimistic, but if quantum computing continues to advance and get more reliable, right now one of the big challenges in quantum is the tech is not very reliable, right? Especially at scale. But as it continues to evolve and advance, the technology will advance in a way that'll literally it will accelerate the ability for computers to process vast amounts of data, which will in theory will significantly reduce the cost of the compute. So, and there's in the quantum realm, all the rules that we know about computing is basically out the window. It's a whole new universe, but we know the effectiveness that quantum can have already, though it's not reliable. But imagine the computing power that scales up in such a manner that it can literally break passwords that currently are unbreakable. That's what enabling quantum at scale will allow us to do. So if it continues to develop and get more reliable on this path, then it's conceivable that quantum will have this scaling up effect on AI, right? Because if you're increasing the ability for AI to process even more information faster and also process more complex information, because of that ability for quantum to accelerate the processing power, right? Then I think that could have a very positive impact on reducing the amount of computing power required to scale up AI at enterprise grade.
Yeah.
So.
And from what I understand, from my limited knowledge of quantum, part of the reason why scientists are so excited about it is currently how computers work is, it's able to solve one problem at a time. And so it can only think of one option. So if you think of a maze, our computers will be able to go through the maze one at a time and then realize this is the wrong way. Go this way, realize it's the wrong way. Go this way, realize it's the right way. But with quantum, it's able to solve, is it hundreds or is it thousands or is it millions of things at once?
Yeah, millions, literally. Yep.
Millions.
And
So
higher,
it could solve a maze a million times faster, because instead of solving it one part at a time, it's now solving it in a million ways at a time, concurrently. And I heard recently that the CEO of NVIDIA was talking about working with in robotics, and that now they are able to train robots in basically the same fashion, where instead of making individual robots do the same action in the real world, one problem at a time, now they're having them do hundreds or thousands of digital experiences where it tries to evaluate what it would be like to solve a problem or move in the digital world, what it would be like in the physical world, in the digital world. And that is helping robotics right now accelerate at a much more exponential rate than anybody's ever seen before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jensen was talking and referencing specifically, the work and partnership they have with robotics type of solutions. But now to bring it because we're in this podcast we're experimenting and literally showing agent tech, right? Yeah. Imagine that ability magnified with the agent's ability to simultaneously tackle one task. Yeah. So you're talking about a compounding effect, because agents you can literally assign as many agents as you want to break down and simultaneously solve a task. Yeah. So now you add the whole quantum element. So you're already making the agent more powerful as it is, because it can think about multiple problems simultaneously. Now, imagine you're compounding the ability to solve with the one agent across 10 or 50 or 100.
Yeah.
That is like mind blowing.
So does quantum use an incredible amount of energy as well? I know this is not your field.
That's not my field. I don't know. Like,
okay.
So
we'll have to find a quantum
ask,
person. If you're a quantum person and you want to come on the show, please send me a note and let me know, because I have many questions.
Yeah.
But and the other thing that gives me a little bit of hope when it comes to the energy consumption and AI, although I don't know how much of an effect it actually makes, is DeepSeek and other LLMs like it that are that much lighter weight, that don't need as much computing power. The fact that those have the ability to exist, that gives me a lot more hope that we're gonna not use nearly as much energy.
Right.
But at the same time, you run into the chicken before the egg. Are we now going to use more energy because you don't need to spend as much energy on individual things?
And I'm glad you mentioned DeepSeek specifically in the context of what we're talking about. You know, the energy, the cost in the environment, right? The impact on the environment because of the cost to power and cool those chips, right? So I think what's exciting about what DeepSeek represents is a more efficient way to train language models, right?
Yeah.
Now it still requires you to leverage a frontier model, right? So the highest and most advanced type of AI model that we have right now, still that's a requirement. But what DeepSeek has proven is you can efficiently train other models which are smaller by leveraging the frontier model. So you don't have to go through the very expensive way if you need to fine-tune those specific smaller models. You can leverage DeepSeek's methods, right, with the distillation process to train those smaller models more efficiently, which immediately shrinks down both the cost as well as the financial costs as well as the environmental costs. Right? And that's something that we already know. Yeah. So more advances like that, plus, I'm being optimistic, the advances in quantum, right, and being able to leverage the quantum tech. I think those two types of advancements already represent a way to bring down the cost and both environmental as well as financial costs associated with scaling AI. That's my thinking, and maybe I'm just too optimistic, but I have to be. It's in the job description, right?
It is. So, it is. Yeah. I mean, it's and I think the other thing that people who are outside of the AI space maybe don't know is how much that leaders of AI companies or other big companies like Microsoft or Google are aggressively trying to invest in more clean energy options in order to try to A, because we're going to need so much more energy in the future, and B, to try to make the impact on the environment a lot lower in the future. Yes. So I know it can be a bit spooky, but I know there's been a big focus on nuclear, which does have one of the lowest impacts when it comes to carbon emissions. Yes, very much so. Yep. There is always the bit of the spook factor.
Right, because it is nuclear.
About nuclear waste. But I saw a few videos recently from some very reputable journalists who I really love, breaking down what are those risk factors and how do they compare to other types of energy that are still in use. And I honestly, when I read the numbers, I was really shocked to see how much better for the environment nuclear is.
I know, but it has the associated risks.
It does, right. And so and the stigma around it too is really really strong.
Absolutely.
And so I am excited to see a lot of big tech trying to see if there's more that we can be doing with nuclear. I heard that China is building a ton of nuclear plants. And that they're speeding. Although we have more now, they are speeding past us. When it comes to just creating new plants.
And investment.
And investing in new plants.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an often talked about option, again, in an effort to help the scaling of AI tech, right? And because that's where it starts to get really expensive, because you have to invest in not only AI infrastructure, but things like, what are the energy sources that are required to power this? And nuclear is a certain viable option, though it is a risky one, but it has proven that it is an efficient way to generate the energy, right? So it's not the only option, but I think, it's certainly one that has attracted the attention of the technical bosses in the Silicon Valley, which I don't think is a bad thing.
Yeah. I think having options is good. And after reviewing the numbers, it did seem like if we could just get rid of coal, period.
The dependency on fossil fuel, right?
The dependency of fossil fuels is just so bad, and I really want wind and solar to really, really take off, but there is so much potential in nuclear, and I think it is something that we need to take a step back up from and say like, oh, does the stigma actually justify the numbers, or
Sure.
do the numbers justify the stigma? Yeah, that's what I mean.
Right, because some of it, especially in this in this era of overhyping and fake news, right? Like it's kind of hard sometimes to filter through like what and understand like what is the realistic scenarios that we are facing, right?
And is the information that I have accurate? I'm pretty sure it is, because it came from trusted journalists who I appreciate. But we're in an environment where information can be so easily manipulated and whatnot. That's what worries me about AI. But is there anything else that we didn't get to cover about AI concerns? So you mentioned energy, and what was the
financial cost?
And financial cost. Is there anything else that you are concerned about when it comes to
I think just the specifically because I'm often ironically asked to talk about this topic. Enterprise AI is kind of a specialty for me now, but I think that something that's often not discussed enough is also the significant investment that has to be made at scale for monitoring these models once they get deployed, right? Because it's one thing about, and it's often talked about like, let's design, all these AI solutions, work through the models, enhance them and things like that. And that's like the sexiest part of the process. Everyone wants to talk about the design, the strategy, and what the cool things that tech can do, which is great. You got to talk about those benefits and those outcomes. But then I think it's equally important to discuss like in the realm of responsible AI, what are the steps that are being taken to monitor and manage the AI solutions once you do deploy them, right? And that's not as sexy, right? Let's just be honest, right? Because then it's like, oh, I have to do that? Yeah, because guess what? Especially if you're gonna deploy an agentic solution, you're giving them the ability to reason and take action independently. Yeah. And so, of course, you need to monitor them, right? Especially if it's an agentic based solution, because you are giving them the ability, by definition, the ability to think through and reason and come up with their own path for whatever outcome you want, right? And so that requires some monitoring, some governance that's not sexy, but is required if you're going to deploy AI responsibly.
Yeah, it's so true. It's not what I mean. There are a lot of people who are very interested in AI ethics, and I'm one of them. So I'm very into AI governance.
That's good. That's good.
And that was a big priority of ours when I was at Datavolo, and our team was very strict about making sure that if they were trying to figure out what was the best way to ingest and convert these unstructured files and making sure that things were citable, things were
absolutely
able to be easily monitored and whatnot, which was really cool to see a team working on stuff like that.
That's great, especially a data company, like Volo, and now they're part of Snowflake, another data company. Yeah, I think it all and it's great because in the end, you need to be able to securely manage the access to that data, right? And if you're a data company, you specialize in that, like Volo and Snowflake, then that has to be high on your priority list. Yeah. It's part of just being responsible about the AI, right? Like, let's understand the regulations, let's understand these constraints, because it's not just about the tech; it's more importantly about protecting that data, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons. I don't know how you feel about it, but that's one of the reasons that honestly I haven't bothered trying out Grok yet. Is I've heard some rumors about maybe not having the best AI governance in building that. I don't know if you've heard differently or if you have any thoughts that you feel comfortable sharing. I know Grok things end up being a bit political.
Yeah. So, Gronk is Gronk, and consider who's at the helm, kind of manning the vision for Gronk in the first place. Though I do think the thing about Gronk is I'm impressed with is it's it sort of opens up the conversation in an area that hasn't been discussed, which is like, what kind of data do you want to give the AI, right? Yeah. And Gronk, training it on social media specific, and in that data set, that corpus of data, is going to be controversial because
Yeah.
because the nature of that content is controversy, right? So I believe there is a place for that.
Yeah.
And so I want to be open-minded by it, but I know that there's people that feel differently about it too.
Yeah. And
Right.
I figured there's so many LLMs that, I don't need to try every single one. I don't need to see
Right.
every single update.
Right.
And so I tried to dabble with a bunch of them.
Sure.
But, when DeepSeek came out and when Grok came out, Grok 3 came out, I was like, I don't need to try this right now. Maybe I'll wait and see how things turn out, and maybe I'll test it out. But
Sure.
the reality is, it feels like, I don't know how you feel about this, but it feels like we're in a race of inches, not a race of miles, right? No one seems to be so much further ahead, unless you disagree, than all of the other competitors.
Right. No, it's a very tight race, particularly, when you're talking about model development, right? It's the most expensive. The frontier models, it seems the reality is like one, you get a major release, by one company. It's like the very next week these days.
They have more.
There's another one, right? Or yet another one coming down our right. It's like
They're really all just one-upping each other, like every chance that they can.
Yeah. And honestly, my personal strategy, both professionally and personally, is the thing that excites me the most, more than the frontier model race, is the applications.
Yeah.
Right? Because then it's real. I can leverage it, right? Example, I can build my own agents, right?
Yeah.
I can automate my own my own life, right? And that's where AI becomes real. The frontier model stuff, that's so out there. Most people don't even know the difference and don't even care. Why do you care? I mean, you care at certain levels, right? I think the DeepSeek situation highlights that, right? Because there is sort of the geopolitical element to it, right? Things like, if you download DeepSeek and you use DeepSeek, the application, it's like TikTok, right?
Yeah.
You have to reconcile with yourself. Do I want to be giving my data to China?
Yeah.
Right? And am I okay with that? Because that's just reality. Hence why I haven't personally downloaded the application. You can use, there's other ways to leverage the tech.
Yeah.
But most people would be like, wow, I want to use this, I want to access this.
Yeah, you can test it out through Perplexity if you want. I haven't done that just because I don't really see the urgent need to.
Right.
I'm not testing every single platform all of the time. I just don't have the time for that.
Sure.
But there are other ways to access those LLMs than downloading them.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
There's any of them, right? There's many options, and you don't even have to again. Do you really have to be up to speed on the frontier model development? Unless you're a professional like me, you don't need to. The most accessible vehicle for the AI is through the applications.
Yeah.
Perplexity, right? Whatever you want to use, OpenAI, ChatGPT.
Yeah. Well, and now Perplexity is launching their own browser. Comment, so that's exciting. I thought that was an interesting use case. But speaking about applications, my last question for you is, I'm curious what use cases you are most excited about right now. This could be for businesses or enterprise or maybe personal. What are the most exciting use cases you have seen for AI tools in general since we've last spoken?
Since you last spoke. I trying to remember what we talked about. What was my response to that question? Because you asked me that question the first time, right?
Yeah, last time we focused a lot on healthcare.
Healthcare, yeah.
And it was funny because I think you were also trying to not disclose any private information.
Which I can't. This is my own opinion. Disclaimer.
I can't remember
Disclaimer.
what the specifics were, but
This is my
I think it
opinion.
kind of got into what we talked about earlier tonight about personalized health care.
Yeah, that was my response the first time, right?
Yes, I think
Which
so.
is still very exciting.
Yeah.
The ability for AI to process information and thus make the delivery of care delivery, including diagnostics, more personal for the patient is still very exciting.
Yeah.
So, but it's not of lately the most exciting use case that I've been doing research on and talking about is more of the engagement variety, right? So one of the popular use cases right now for AI overall is virtual assistants,
Yeah.
And so because of the popularity of the agent tech, which we showcased here in this podcast, and the Caroline agent, right? It's really like started to prove its potential now because it's popular. People are leveraging it. People are now able to solution what I call like the first generation type agent solutions, like really at scale.
Yeah.
So big pushes for companies like Salesforce, like Agentforce, huge. Like lots of cool things. You're building on the platform, you're using the agent tech on the platform.
Yeah.
So what's exciting for me right now is the popularity that's made available to create these virtual assistants, right?
Yeah.
And so and that gives you the ability to automate your life, make it more efficient,
Yeah. What
make
are
it better
these
at your
assistants
job.
doing? So, like, what are
Sure.
some examples? Maybe 3 examples of
Sure.
what you've seen that was really impressed you?
Sure. One of the things that I'm impressed with in the virtual assistant realm is the ability to make information about your services as a company available to your customers, right?
Yeah.
In a more effective manner. Because one of the challenges right now is for customers is they get frustrated, right? They get routed around to different people, like you call in the help desk. You've seen this, I'm sure, all times. And that depending upon who you get, like they're not able to solve your particular issue.
Yeah,
right?
and you have to ask for a manager or something
As a
like
manager, we've all been there, whether it's airline tickets or whatever. And so where I've seen it's very exciting is these assistants enable the access of the organizational knowledge to that agent, to the customer service person, right? So I'm talking about like live agent support, right? Make that the entire corpus of the organization's information available to that person.
Yeah.
So that allows them, number one, to scale up their ability to resolve those questions, but also I think it enhances the whole experience as a whole for the customer, right?
Yeah. So here's a question about
Sure.
that. If we're able to have better customer service options, what's going to happen to the Karens? Are we going to eradicate all the Karens from the
The
world
Karens?
from demanding to speak to the manager? Or will they feel
Sure.
more empowered to demand to speak to the manager? What will happen to the Karens,
What will happen
man?
to the Karens?
Yeah.
You would hope that because the automation now and the text is now available, not only to that the customer service support agent that's supporting Karen,
Yeah.
but also to Karen herself, right? So in theory, because you're able to leverage the tech on both sides,
Yeah.
Karen would I would think would be a lot more enlightened,
Yeah.
and thus more more professional, let's just say, about her engagement with that age.
So
the
the
person.
Karen could get an agent who could Karen for her.
Exactly.
And maybe that would eradicate the Karenness inside her.
Exactly. That's another advantage, like why I created the Caroline agent. Right?
It's to get rid of me.
No, to make Caroline, basically like, to make Caroline more in tune to herself, because now she can, like talking in a mirror, right?
Listen,
Make Caroline more like Caroline.
Caroline's got to defeat the other Carolyn on a beach in slow motion. Like,
Should totally create another Caroline agent and train it with the opposite characteristics of the one that we did train on, right? The Baywatch Karen, right?
I'm just glad
So-
that my Carolyn agent bot was not any funnier than I was, because that makes me feel better, because I retired from comedy for a reason, and if Carolyn bot was even funnier, I don't know if I could personally handle it.
She's not quite up to your level.
Not quite up to
Caroline,
my level.
which is good. Like that's a good thing, right? Like she's good, she's funny,
She's
but
good, but
she's
she's
not
not
as
that
funny as the
good.
real thing.
Not that
Not
good.
as funny as the real Caroline.
Okay,
right?
so when we
Yeah.
talked about use cases, we talked about having assistants that could help you not be a Karen.
Yeah.
But while still getting the Karen benefits. So what are other examples of other use cases that you've been really excited about?
In the virtual assistant realm.
Virtual assistant or whatever you want to talk about.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool and exciting. And the most exciting is definitely within that space, because I've seen some really impressive tech. Like there's the tech behind that stuff is like exceeded my expectations, and both the ability to leverage the agents to multiple agents, not just one.
Yeah.
And that's really, really cool. Let's just say like, another use case that's pretty exciting that I've seen is lately in the diagnostic realm. So because we have advanced the model technology where we have, which is even more impressive. I've seen some realistic examples of like assistance in the exam room, I guess, for lack of a better term, when you're meeting with your physician and talking about like your health, right?
Yeah.
So I've literally seen like assistants deployed in that scenario.
Yeah.
That are remarkable. So they have the ability to listen in on the conversation that you have with your doctor, or
saving
your
time
nurse.
For the doctor from taking notes and actually listening to their client.
But it also, so yes, that part, which is the documentation piece, which is great for the physician.
Yeah.
So, it takes some stress off and offloads that to the assistant. But what's even more exciting is they have the ability to access like all of the internet information and also information that's specific and private to that healthcare organization. And they're able to, like, the doctor can ask questions, clarify questions, or the patient can ask clarifying questions, or the assistant itself can say, hold on, Dr. So-and-so, like, please mention XYZ, or I've noticed you're talking about, patient, this certain specific patient care situation regarding, cancer treatment, and I'd just like to mention and recommend this. So I've seen it do that, and it's quite helpful.
Yeah.
So it's almost like having a second physician in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. I also assume that you saw that New York Times article talking about a study that was conducted recently about how AI, specifically ChatGPT, was outperforming doctors when it came to diagnosing patients.
Yes.
I was really shocked by the numbers. So the numbers were the AI was diagnosing patients correctly 90% of the time. Doctors without AI were diagnosing patients correctly 74% of the time. And then doctors with AI only went up by 2 percentage points to 76%. So 90% for just AI, 74 for just doctors, and 76 for doctors with AI. And they believe the majority of that is because the doctors didn't understand how to best work with the AI systems, and or were ignoring the suggestions that were being made.
Which is why I think this is, the recent developments in the tech and deploying it, AI on the edge is what's called, right? So NVIDIA's, that's the big thing for NVIDIA because, well, they're NVIDIA and, they excel at edge cases, right? Yeah. By design, right? And so that's why it excites me because, like, bringing the closer we can bring the AI to the when care is delivered, right? In this case, the exam room, the better the physicians and the patients can, like, understand and how to use AI most effectively, right? Because I think there's nothing more real than that scenario, which you literally have that AI assistant in the exam room, right? Right there to kind of listen in and maybe process that technology, and then you create that collaboration. Not only with the doctor, but also with the patient in that setting, right? Yeah. And so it sort of takes out the factor, like that was mentioned in the study, of like the doctor not understanding how to leverage it, right? Because it's right there in the room. You're able to relate to it in a way that is more natural than just working on something independently, on a laptop on your own. That's, I think by bringing the AI in a direct scenario, people are able to understand it more intuitively. Is sort of the hope.
Well, Michael, Thank you so much for coming on the show today. This was an absolute blast, and probably our best podcast episode yet. I keep saying that over and over again after recording. I keep telling my husband Dave, I'm like, I think this one might have been the best one. Listen, nobody has come over and brought me a Carolyn bot, so this was hilarious. Thank you so much for joining us. If people are interested in speaking with you, working with you, or potentially having you as a speaker at their event or coming on their podcast, where can they find you, or how should they reach out to you?
You know, the best way to reach out to me is through LinkedIn. You know, look at my profile. I'm on there a lot. You know, also another way to connect with me is through beta events.
Yeah.
So, right? And that's how we connected.
If you're a local here in Minnesota, BETA, Minnesota, we're here in the office. It's a phenomenal startup community with the oldest accelerator in the state, and the best accelerator, yeah?
We like to think so.
Oh,
Absolutely.
for sure. Yeah.
Best tech accelerator.
So
yes.
Huge thanks to the BETA team for letting us use the office on a Saturday afternoon. And thank you so much for watching. If you like the show, my name is Carolyn Swift Holden, not Carolyn Holden, aka the character on Baywatch by Yasmin Bleeth. And I love to talk about everything AI, startups, tech, and apparently running in slow motion. So if you would like to listen to another one of these shows, please feel free to follow. You can find me on YouTube or Substack or anywhere that you get your podcasts. And also I post on LinkedIn all of the time. So again, if you're going to Google me, you better Google Carolyn Swift Holden, because if you just do Carolyn Holden, I'm afraid you're suddenly going to be running in slow motion. So thank you so much again, Michael, for coming on the show. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and have a fabulous day. Bye.
This video has been brought to you by the PM Insider. Product managers, are you ready to take your skills to the next level with AI? The AI for Product Management course by the PM Insider teaches you how to harness the power of AI, even if you don't write code. Get 15% off when you use the code SWIFT15 at checkout. That's 15% off with the code SWIFT15 at thepminsider.com. Thanks, PM Insider.